Hey guys, Miss Osuna here. Today we are going to work on layout. So grab one croquis and you want to trace it on your tracing paper and then flip it over and rub it onto your marker paper. Literally, I just use the back of my design marker to rub. So make sure the lead is face down on the marker paper, and then from the back side just rub. Make sure you push hard enough so that you can be sure the lines are going to transfer from that tracing paper onto the marker paper. You can lift up and check every now and then just to be sure, and all you want is a very light line. You don't need it to be too dark. You just barely need to be able to see. So any croquis that you have that you like, grab it, trace it, flip that lead side over so that the lead faces the marker paper, and then grab the back of your marker and rub that off so that you don't have to draw on the marker paper. Put a little piece of tape, and this is artist tape so that it's not too sticky, just to make sure that the tracing paper is in the same spot. So when I lift up to check under, I still get back to my same location. You could also do this with painter's tape, something that's not too sticky. That way, when you're done, you can take the tracing paper off and it will not rip the marker paper. Here's what the results will look like so that you can see nice and close up, just a very faint line. That's all you need so that, of course, you can color on top of those very faint lines. The reason we do not draw on top of that marker paper is because we don't want a lot of lead. We want to keep it nice and clean so that the markers will show up and not turn muddy because of the lead. Now I'm going to grab marker paper. The one that I've already rubbed off is great, that's in the middle. And now I'm going to retrace the back side of my tracing paper right next to it on the right. So I'm putting my second croquis on that marker paper. Now remember that lead that you already have on the page of your tracing paper will come off as you are tracing the back of it. And if by some chance maybe you created that croquis a long time ago so the lead is not coming off so easily, just retrace that back side and then flip it over and you're good to go. So this time around I'm able to rub the lines onto my marker paper for my second croquis simply by tracing the back side of my first croquis. And there's a very specific reason that I am putting lead on the back of this tracing paper. I could, of course, just get my design marker and rub the lead off, but that's not what I want to do for a very specific reason. I'll show you in a moment. take a look on the back and you can see you now have 2 croquis on one page. The one on the right we just finished. It's very light, but that's what we want. I'm darkening mine so that you can see it on this video, but you don't need to do that. Just make sure that you can see your lines as faint and as light as you possibly can, and then you will be set. So I'm going to continue darkening mine just for the video purposes, and then I will show you a very subtle change so that it's similar to the first croquis in the middle, but it's not exactly the same as the croquis in the middle. So keep watching and you'll see the change that makes it different enough to capture your attention, but similar enough to know that it's in the same collection. So now that I have 2 croquis, they look exactly the same. I'm going to put the 3rd croquis, but the arm now is on the left because I have my choice. Lead is on both sides. So I've chosen to make the arm on the left side because the first 2 croquis have the arm that's extended on the right side. So the lead is on the back, and I can simply rub this off and have my 3rd croquis in my layout. So this all came from 1 croquis. Peek at what it looks like. So now I have the 2 croquis on the right with the arm extended on the right, and my 3rd croquis has the arm extended on the left. And now let's make some more changes. So once again, I'm just darkening all 3 croquis, but you don't need to do that as long as you can see your croquis so that you can paint and draw however you like. In my case, I need you to see what I'm actually doing on the video. So I'm going to take a moment here to darken my own just so that you can see. And that kneaded eraser that I was holding up is just so that you can know you may actually need to erase some of your pencil lines because you don't want it to be too dark that it gets muddy underneath the marker. And if you do need to erase, I highly recommend a kneaded eraser like the one I just held up. make changes. I'm going to start with the croquis on the far right. So I'm going to draw the head tilted more towards the right. Always draw first and erase later. So I drew it right on top of the first oval, and then I erased the first oval after. So it's better not to erase the oval entirely. It's better to draw right on top of it than erase second. The reason I do that is so that you can get the exact measurement and then erase what you don't need. Now, notice the arms are the same on the far two croquis on the right. So I'm erasing the arm on the far right to make a change. So the body is the same as the middle croquis, but now I'm hiding this arm. I'm going to just redraw it. So now both of her arms on the right side are hiding behind her back. So I've tilted her head and I've changed her arm. So now it feels like a separate looking croquis, but it's similar enough because all the other details are the same. I always say I'd like my croquis to feel like family members that are cousins, not twins. So now croquis number 3 and 2 on the far right, they look slightly different, but you can tell they're in the same collection. Family members, not twins, cousins. Now moving on to that first croquis on my left side, I'm redrawing the head to the left. And of course you can choose and decide which way you want to redraw the head, but I'm choosing to draw this one towards the left side because she's on the left side of the paper. So it makes it feel like with both heads tilted, the one on the left is tilting to the left, the one on the right is tilting to the right. It actually makes it feel like they're both looking kind of toward the center. And that's something that I feel is a good layout. So now I've erased the first oval, but remember, always draw on top of that first one and then make your changes. So now I have croquis that feel similar, but they are slightly different, and that will keep the focus exactly on the clothing. They're similar enough, but they do have slight differences. And that's what you want to do when you design your clothes. Your clothing in your collection should feel similar enough to be cohesive, but different enough to make the buyer want to buy all of your pieces. But they have to hang beautifully in the store and be merchandised enough so that they're different and they look beautiful because you can tell they're part of the same collection. Now here are different changes for the collarbone. So remember, there's subtle changes that you're non-verbally communicating to whoever is looking at your croquis. So this subtle change that I have right now is incorporating differences in the collarbone and the neck. So here I have both the left and the right side collarbones represented, and I am going to make sure that all three of them have a slightly different version of this. So I'm putting the collarbone on the right side the same, the left is shorter, and now I'm adding a line for our neck. So the left side collarbone is shorter. It's a very subtle detail, but it does add to the difference. Now I'm going to have the neck with a longer one on the left and the shorter one on the right, and then the collarbone are short for this one. So again, these are subtle nonverbal communications that you are incorporating in your croquis so that the feeling is that each croquis is different, meaning each outfit is different, but they all have a similarity and they belong to the same collection. Now we're going to move down further in our sketch to add even more subtle differences. Okay, so the prominent bones in the ankle on the outside are lower, and then on the inside it's higher. So on the right, my triangular shape faces left, kind of like a greater than, less than. And now here on the inside, where the big toe is and the kneecap, it's higher. So remember, outside is lower, inside is higher. That's just the basic anatomy of the human ankle structure. I'm going to do the same thing here for the next croquis. The outside lower, so that triangle faces the right. And of course, we want to make sure that the inside is higher. And then finally, I'm going to do the same thing here on our croquis at the far right. Remember, the outside is lower, the inside of our ankle at the bone structure is higher. So those are just triangular shapes. Now let's move on to the knee. Now I'm going to start on the croquis on the far right. So for the kneecap, I'm going to make them slightly different for each croquis. So on the inner portion of our knee, I'm going to come down and over, sort of like a backward letter L in the alphabet. The longer vertical line and then a horizontal shorter line. Now I'm doing the same thing, but now I've added, so I have 2 vertical lines and then a horizontal line. That's for the croquis in the middle. She's like croquis number 2 for me. Now I'm going to do horizontal and then vertical. So this is towards the inner knee, and it's the opposite. This is my croquis number 1. It's opposite of croquis number 3. So those, again, subtle differences, nonverbal communication, that they're different, but they all belong to the same collection. And this all came from that one sketch. I literally traced that one sketch, rubbed it off from the back. Then the second time around, I traced the sketch and that rubbed it off because I was on the back side and the lead was already on the first side. And then that third time around, I chose to trace it so that the arm was on the left. All was from one croquis, but now with the different head placement, redrawing the arm on croquis number 3 so that it's behind her back. These subtle changes all added up to being able to get several poses and several different croquis from one croquis. The collarbone is slightly different here on 3, on 2, and on 1, and that all adds up combined with the different arms and with the different head placement. Hopefully your layouts are going to be different enough so that we want to buy all of them, but similar enough so that we know they are in the same collection. I'm Miss Osuna. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial on layouts and how you can make several different poses for a great layout out of one croquis. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video, and until we meet again, happy sketching.